finally realize after reading this book that the altar we should have been kneeling at all along, back then and now, was and remains the altar between that birthing woman's legs, and every birthing woman now, whether we're giving birth to a baby or a book or a garden. And that is what Love Your Lady Landscape is about, how to worship at the altar and the power center between your legs, whether or not you've had a hysterectomy, whether or not you still bleed, whether or not you have a partner, whether or not you've had children, no matter what, none of that matters. Because the power between your legs is always there, whispering or screaming, depending upon what's needed. I've come to see that the practice of modern gynecology is, after all, largely an attempt to deal with the screaming. So please don't wait until the volume has been turned way up. Start listening to your precious body now. This book will show you how. One more thing, you're going to be led, and not by your intellect. That is, after all, how I met Lisa Lister. Our meeting was orchestrated by the goddess herself. I fulfilled a lifelong dream to take a pilgrimage to Glastonbury, England, last year. I didn't know much about it, and I didn't even realise that Glastonbury is Avalon of the famed Mists of Avalon, one of my favourite books of all time. I just know that I was drawn there. On the day we were to visit the Abbey, this ebullient presence, whom I would come to know as Lisa, appeared across the street with a huge red flower in her lush dark hair, and joy radiating in every direction around her. Her Viking was on her arm, a guy who is a nurse by training and who shared my medical philosophy. We all hit it off immediately. Lisa led our group to the recently uncovered Magdalene's altar, where we prayed and left an offering of roses. And then she took us to a special stone where women sat and bled during their moontime for centuries. When we parted, Lisa did something for which I will be forever grateful. She honoured me for breaking trail in this journey back to She, and told me how much my work had helped her. Sisterhood. So precious. Nothing like it. We saw each other's souls. We honoured each other. Lisa, like me, has very big ovaries and a huge heart to match. You need these when you're working for the goddess, because this work is not for the faint of heart. I am thrilled to pass the torch to her and her sisters, the cheeky, articulate goddesses who are ready to hold that torch even higher, unashamed and with great humour, but without taking any bullshit. Let Love Your Lady Landscape guide you home, to your pleasure, your inner goddess, and the power that will never fail or hurt you, ever again. Blessed be. Dr. Christiane Northrup, author of Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, and Goddesses Never Age. Introduction. The Call. You've had the power all along, my dear. Glinda the Good Witch, the Wizard of Oz. There was a time, about 5,000 years ago, when she-power reigned and lady landscapes were revered. Temples were built in honour of our curves, and statues of goddesses stood 10 foot tall. The entrances, shaped like a woman's open legs, were a powerful energy vortex to connect directly with the divine. It was common knowledge that the womb and belly of a woman housed the power of her badassery, creativity, intuition, and manifestation. Yep, the space between a woman's thighs was a power portal, an oracle, a fortune teller, a direct hookup to source. But for over 2,000 years now, our stories, our truths, our wisdom as women have been distorted, censored, burned, and unheard. Living in a patriarchy taught us to disregard the potent powers of our wombs. Our connection to Mama Nature, the lunar cycles, and the seasons were ignored, and our menstrual cycle something that was seen as being dirty or shameful. Now we ignore our root wisdom because we no longer trust that we know ourselves. We look outside ourselves for the answers. We replace creative sensuality with destructive and wounded sexuality. We spend time and money trying to find a new way, a spiritual practice, a community, anything that helps us make sense of ourselves as women, yet nothing fits. When we get emotional or express ourselves fully, we apologize for our tears, suppress our anger, and worry that we'll be seen as hysterical. And when that happens, we self-medicate with whatever will numb the pain of not being heard. Drugs, food, alcohol, shopping, delete as applicable. Worst of all, we have an epidemic of down there pain and dis-ease.